Welcome back to the Masterclass series on shoulder arthroscopy and CPT coding. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we are hitting a massive milestone. We are officially on part 11. Our mission in this explainer is to absolutely master subacromial space pathology, really understand the surgical reality of decompression, and conquer one of the most notoriously confusing codes in the entire book. I'm talking about the CPT add-on code plus 29826. If you have ever second-guessed whether you should bill an acromioplasty or just a simple debridement, well, you are in exactly the right place.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with a masterclass recap, move into impingement anatomy, dive deep into the law of plus 29826, compare bony versus soft tissue work, run through a quick knowledge check, and finish up with your key takeaways.
All right, Section 1, Masterclass Recap. Let's do a quick 30-second review of where we left off so our foundation is rock solid.
In Part 10, we completely conquered the Mumford procedure, which is distal clavicle excision under CPT 29824, and we decoded the complexities of lysis of adhesions with 29825. Today, we're shifting our focus slightly lower, right into the subacromial space. We're setting our sights squarely on acromioplasty and its designated add-on code 29826.
Section 2, Impingement Anatomy. Before we can accurately code this, we really need to visit the scene of the crime to understand the physical reality of the shoulder itself.
Let's mentally picture a sleek 3D model of a shoulder joint. I want you to think of the subacromial space like a very narrow tunnel. The roof of this tunnel is made of bone, the acromion, along with a tight band called the coracoacromial ligament. The floor of the tunnel is the humeral head. Now, running right through the middle of this tight space are your delicate rotator cuff tendons and a fluid-filled sac called the bursa. When a patient has subacromial impingement syndrome, that tunnel has narrowed significantly. So every single time they lift their arm, those tendons are being painfully squeezed, ground, and pinched right between the bones. It is pure mechanical friction, and it hurts.
And that physical reality brilliantly illustrates exactly what the surgeon has to do to fix it. Their goal isn't just to go in and look around. It's literally an architectural remodeling job. Step 1, they decompress the space by clearing out the inflamed bursa. Step 2, they release that super tight coracoacromial ligament to open up the outlet. And Step 3, which is absolutely the most critical part for our coding today, they bring in a motorized burr to resect and shave away the impinging bone spurs on the acromion. They are physically raising the roof of that tunnel.
Section 3, the law of plus 29826. It's time to shift our focus from the physical anatomy to the strict CPT mandates.
Now, what's really interesting here is the specific language CPT uses. The descriptor reads arthroscopy, shoulder, surgical, decompression of subacromial space with partial acromioplasty with coracoacromial ligament release when performed. I really want to highlight the plus sign at the very front of that code. That tiny plus symbol dictates absolutely everything about how this code functions. It means this is an add-on code, mathematically bound to a primary procedure.
Let's talk about the parent code tree and how this builds. Because 29826 is an add-on code, it kind of acts like a parasite. Well, a parasite in a good way. It needs a host to survive on your claim form. CPT guidelines explicitly state that this code must be reported in conjunction with specific eligible base codes. Those are the shoulder arthroscopy codes 29806 through 29825. It also includes 29827 for your rotator cuff repairs and 29828 for biceps tenodesis. If one of those base codes isn't on your claim, the add-on codes simply cannot exist.
Let's etch this absolute boundary into our memory right now. Code 29826 can never be reported as a standalone code. Literally never. If you try to bill it by itself, your claim is going to immediately hit an edit and get denied. We call this the rule of never for acromioplasty coding.
Moving right along to Section 4, bony versus soft tissue work. If we know the parent rules, where do coders actually go wrong out in the real world? It almost always comes down to distinguishing between these two concepts.
This is the ultimate showdown. On one hand, we have true bony revision and acromioplasty. To capture this, you need explicit operative documentation confirming that the surgeon brought in a motorized arthroscopic burr and actively shaved, coplaned, or resected the actual bony spur on the acromion. Now contrast that heavily with a soft tissue bursectomy alone. If the surgeon only uses a shaver to clear out inflamed soft tissue and bursa to decompress the space, but they never actually shave the bone itself, you do not have an acromioplasty.
You only have a soft tissue decompression, and that points you straight to the debridement codes 29822 or 29823.
So the crucial point is this fascinating twist in the guidelines. Let's say the surgeon does use the burr. They shave the bone. They do a totally flawless acromioplasty. But it's the only thing they do in the shoulder that day. No rotator cuff repair, no labral repair. Just the acromioplasty. Remember our rule of never? Because 29826 cannot stand alone, CPT guidelines officially advise that an isolated subacromial decompression defaults to limited or extensive debridement. Codes 29822 or 29823. Wild, right? But that's the rule.
Oh, and as a super quick housekeeping rule, if you are successfully billing the acromioplasty add-on code, do not try to bill separately for the bursectomy. The lesser procedure of removing the soft tissue bursa is always swallowed up and included in the greater procedure of removing the bone.
All right, Section 5, Knowledge Check. It is time to put you on the stand and test our real-world application of the laws we just learned.
Here's Scenario 1. A surgeon performs an arthroscopic subacromial decompression alone with a partial bursectomy. There are absolutely no other shoulder procedures performed during the session. Based on everything we just discussed, what CPT code should be reported? Take a second and think about it.
The answer is CP29822. It all comes back to the rule of never. Because the add-on code cannot be reported standalone, an isolated decompression with a soft tissue bursectomy automatically defaults down to a limited debridement. Great job if you caught that.
Let's try Scenario 2. This one's a bit more complex. The surgeon performs an arthroscopic rotator cuff repair that's code 29827. During the exact same session, they also document a decompression of the subacromial space using a motorized burr to perform an acromioplasty along with a CA ligament release. So what CPT code should be on this claim?
And the answer is CP2 29827 for the rotator cuff repair and our add-on code plus 29826. This perfectly satisfies our mathematical formula. We have an eligible parent code to anchor the claim, and we have explicit documentation of bony work with the motorized burr. Boom, perfect coding.
And finally, Section 6, Key Takeaways. Let's bring this explainer home by locking in our absolute core concepts. If you take away anything from today, make it these 3 rules. They will honestly solve 90% of the subacromial coding errors out there. First, the add-on code absolutely requires documented bony work. You've got to look for keywords like shaving the acromion or coplaning. Second, if it's just a soft tissue bursectomy alone, that equals a debridement code, not an acromioplasty. And third, the add-on code must be mathematically attached to an eligible parent code on your claim form.
With acromioplasty officially mastered, we are perfectly positioned for our next deep dive. In Part 12 of the masterclass, we are going to tackle the absolute heavy hitter, rotator cuff repair under code 29827. We're also going to be navigating the really tricky rules for open conversions and exactly when to use modifiers 22 and 59. You definitely won't want to miss that one.
Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. But before you go, ask yourself this. How many times in the past have you automatically billed an acromioplasty just because a burr was mentioned, without checking if it was the only procedure performed? It is such a small detail, but it literally makes all the difference in compliance and revenue. So stay curious, keep reading those operative notes carefully, and as always, decode healthcare with Harshal.